So if you've been around on the channel for a while at all, you may notice we started to do a little bit of a weekend side series where we look at some of the old classic 3D Zelda games that we are still holding out hope may make it over to the Nintendo Switch at some point in time. And while we didn't get Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, as they were heavily rumored to be a part of Zelda's 35th anniversary, in today's video, I do want to once again hop down memory lane, boot up Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U for the first time in years for me personally, and share some of my personal experiences with this game, and hopefully have a little bit of discussion on whether or not we can still expect Nintendo to bring this game to the Nintendo Switch in the year of 2022. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, of course, we are playing through Twilight Princess HD today, and I'm extremely excited to boot this game up again because, as I mentioned, it has been years and years, probably and since shortly after it was released on the Wii U, since I did my first 100% run, since I've actually gone through and played this game because, like many other Zelda fans, I have been holding out hope this whole time that we may get it ported over to Switch, and I kind of wanted to save it for a while to actually be able to kind of have a fresh experience again when it does come out on the Switch. That said, I think this game has so much to offer, as it was really a step forward with the Ocarina of Time formula. Like, they definitely got away from the direction they were going with Wind Waker and went back to some of the grand adventure, grand dungeon type experience that we saw with Ocarina of Time. So a lot of fans out there, this is ranked amongst the top favorite 3D Zelda of all time. It is definitely in that category for me, but of course Ocarina of Time was really my first Zelda game that got me into the series. But without talking too much further at the beginning of the video, I do want to hop through some gameplay of this game because it has a lot to offer, so let's dive into it. So as I mentioned, we have a real return to form in terms of kind of the gameplay and setting, and kind of what you see with Ocarina of Time is obviously a central point of the game, and right out of the gate we have access to Epona. We are an adult Link that, of course, it has a more mature feeling to it than what we saw with Wind Waker after the kind of poor fan reaction to that we just talked about in that video. In case you guys did watch it, there was a lot of fans turned off by Wind Waker's art style, and I kind of feel, I don't know if it had anything to do with the direction that Nintendo went, but this is definitely the more mature, darker game that I think a lot of Zelda fans were longing for at that point in time. And, you know, this also introduced horseback combat, or true horseback combat, for the first time, because of course you could use your bow on Epona in both Majora's Mask and in Ocarina of Time. We actually have the ability to use sword play for the first time in this game, so there's a lot of exciting stuff that they did for the first time. And really, I think the pacing of this game through and through is fantastic. The HD remakes are absolutely, for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, are absolutely the definitive way to play those games, because there was probably one complaint in the beginning that was pretty notable from fans, and that's that when you get turned into Wolf Link, which will happen here shortly, you basically have to go find all these tiers of light, and I think they actually toned down the amount of tiers that you needed from each section, because that was a pretty grindy point in the game. And really everything that they did was a good addition, as opposed to, like, some people will say the 3DS version of Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time is actually, you know, not as good because they messed up certain mechanics, especially Majora's Mask got that hate. But really, these games in every way, shape, or form, both being Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, are just better across the gate, so, or across the board rather. So I won't talk too much in the very beginning of the game here. I want to get a little bit further in so I can show you guys some more of the mechanics and combat that it has to offer. So I was just finishing up the sword tutorial here, and it actually occurred to me that Twilight Princess not only has some really, like, solid feeling mechanics, but I also brought back some nostalgia around the fact that you actually have to learn moves as you go, and you meet up with a kind of like a spirit wolf, and I won't spoil who that character ultimately is because it's actually a very cool story point. But this is it's one of those things that you actually get progressively better as you go, and you learn some really impressive sword techniques, especially like the finishing attack later on in the game, and it makes you feel progressively more powerful as Link just with the sword play mechanic. And that's not something that we typically see in Zelda games. It's normally like, you know, the arsenal of attacks you start off with are what you stay at. And then I also have some nostalgia coming up at this part that we're about to watch here together with the cutscene, because I do remember, I know I'm about to turn into Wolf Link here coming up, and I have a memory of when that happens, that was featured in a trailer. And back in my day when, oh, I should have brought Epona with me, shouldn't I have? Yes, I should have. Okay, well, we'll cut this part so I don't have to completely re-talk through it. So now I'm back here with Epona after that very time-consuming mistake, but it was one of those things that I remembered trying to watch a trailer for this game when it was first being revealed, and of course they have the cutscene that's gonna... I think I have to actually go do some stuff before that cutscene starts playing, so you may or may not see it in here, but you have like the initial part where Link is, getting turned into Wolf Link, and the nostalgia I have for it is I waited almost all day to... okay, here we go, dismount. I waited almost all day to watch that trailer because I had dial-up internet at the time. And if you know anything about dial-up, you know that a video is pretty much out of the question. Like, you can load images, no problem. It was not even no problem. If it's a high-resolution image, it took quite a while to actually load the full thing. But the trailer for this game, I did all of the chores in the house, got everything done that I needed to do, was still, I would say, probably like 14, 15 years old. I was waiting around for that trailer to load. And after hours of work in the house, I think the 3-minute trailer played until like 1:36 or something like that, which essentially meant that all of that time went by. I still couldn't even watch a trailer. So if you kids think you have it bad with high-speed internet that doesn't load on the go wherever you're at on your mobile phone, it's not that bad compared to what dial-up was. I will tell you that for sure. And I guess I probably skipped where I need to go light a fire somewhere to get past this web. But yeah, that part did actually trigger a memory where I was like, wow, this part where Link turns into Wolf Link, I remember it vividly mainly because of that. Waiting all day for getting half of a trailer revealed to me was kind of a rather depressing thing to go through. Now we have all trailers on demand whenever we want. Used to not be the case. You know, something else, of course, it was the lantern that we were missing before, but something else that occurred to me is the more I play these Wii U games and I have fun on them, the more I want Nintendo to bring back this concept in the future with the whole double screen thing, because having your inventory on your screen right in front of you is just more convenient than you realize. And I think the size of the controller definitely needs to be like less bulky, because the only thing that feels awkward about it is just the simple fact that my hands are kind of, far apart when I'm actually playing the game. I definitely wanted to feel more like a traditional controller, but if they could come out with a controller that has, maybe like a 5 to 6 inch touchscreen in there with like very minimal bezels, similar to how they do with the OLED model, I think that could be a great idea for whatever the Switch 2 might end up being. I do think that Nintendo shouldn't just abandon that two-screen gameplay mechanic that really only they have pulled off so far. So I don't know, just some food for thought there. But I really hate that the Wii U performed as poor as it did, because of course not many people got this. It sold 13 million in its total life cycle. And I also think that, as much as I love these games, it's kind of like they came out on the wrong platform, because a lot of Zelda fans have gotten into the series from Breath of the Wild, or maybe they did own a GameCube or an N64 and maybe even a Wii, but they never owned the Wii U because it just did not sell well. So, that's where you kind of have to have the conversation. It's like, will Nintendo bring this over as they did with so many other Wii U ports, because of that simple fact. They didn't make very much revenue off these games, not anything near what they would on the Switch. I mean, you can't tell me that, Skyward Sword HD is already, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, already sold more than it did on the Wii of its entire release, and on the Switch it's already surpassed what it had sold in the lifetime sales of the Wii, which is like kind of crazy to think about. And of course, the same thing would happen with these more fan favorite ones, because Skyward Sword, while it is a great game, the motion controls did turn some people off. It was also just a real safe play in the terms of the formula that they used, where if these games came over, you would have, I probably can't even make that jump. I'm probably going down the wrong path here. But, if these games came over, you can't tell me that they're not going to sell significantly more. And one thing that I do think would be kind of cool to see them do with Skyward Sword, not Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess HD, rather, that we're playing right now, if they do bring it over to the Switch at some point, and I've seen people comment this, and I do agree with it. Like, I know some people played this game for the first time on the Wii because it was released as a dual release, similar to what Breath of the Wild did on the Wii U and the Switch, as it came out on the GameCube and the Wii at the same time, because of course the GameCube was approaching the end of its life cycle when they were developing this game. There's also another nostalgic story I have where I pre-ordered this game through GameStop, and they delayed it so far and so many times, and back then I was like always terrified of losing my receipt in case I couldn't find my pre-order, because I'd paid it off or something like that ahead of time to make sure I could get this game day one. they had delayed this game so many times and so far that when I went to go pick up my pre-order copy on the GameCube from GameStop, all of the ink had completely worn off the receipt. Like you couldn't read a single thing that was on that receipt because it was folded up in my wallet for years, or at least what felt like a year and a half plus. I don't know exactly how long it was, but they definitely pushed this game back almost at least a full year, if not, like I want to say it was more like a year and 6 months. You can let me know in the comments down below if you remember that. But I know that it was a long time coming for this game because they, of course, they did want to release on both systems. And so, you know, that created kind of an interesting scenario in terms of the buildup for this game. But my whole point in saying all of that is that, of course, a lot of people did play it on the Wii themselves for their first time, so they may be more nostalgic for that motion control mechanic, which, of course, is not near as accurate as what the Skyward Sword HD motion tracking was, because they later on came out with Wii Motion Plus that essentially let you track the wrist movements as opposed to just registering if you swung or not. So on Twilight Princess, it was actually more of just if you swung the Wii remote, it was equivalent to Link hitting the B button. And then they did have like a point and aim mechanic, if I'm not mistaken, with the bow and arrow and things. But one interesting thing with them doing that is because Link is left-handed as a swordsman in all of these games, it actually created a scenario where they had to mirror mode the game. So similar to like how you can play mirror mode on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario Kart, any of the Mario Karts really, but from back in the day, even Double Dash supported mirror mode. Well, mirror mode essentially, it flips all the world. So you might be completely confused. I guess I'm missing a key somewhere. I don't remember where to get it, but we'll figure it out together. But literally, you have every dungeon is completely mirror flipped. Like, it's a really interesting thing. If you remember it on one version and you go to another, you will probably feel very turned around and very confused. And I definitely primarily played it on the GameCube. I did do a run through on the Wii, and just it felt wrong to me because I had played this game so many times as a kid on the GameCube. But there's a chest up there, so that may be my key. But I'm going to figure this out, and we'll come back at a hopefully a little bit later point in the game, and I can show you guys a little bit of the Wolf Link mechanic, which is something that's unique to this Zelda installment as well. Now here we'll see the introduction of Midna, and of course we are now Wolf Link, and this is one of the darker tone Zelda games, as when you are in the Twilight Realm, it definitely has that eerie feeling. I think similar to maybe what you could only compare to Majora's Mask in terms of another 3D Zelda having more of that darker vibe to it, and I always enjoyed this. Now, you can argue, like I said earlier, that the beginning portion of the game when you're playing as Wolf Link does feel a little bit lengthy, but once you get past that, even though they did shorten it up, I still feel like it lasts a while. But you know, once you get past that and you're able to freely transform between human Link and Wolf Link, I think it's a fantastic mechanic, and it's a really cool one that of course we've only seen them implement in this game. And I am a fan, I know I've said this in the other videos, but I am a fan of maybe one day the Zelda team doing something different than a Breath of the Wild direction and playing with some of these mechanics but refining them and doing kind of like a number 2 to a lot of these fan classics, and that may or may not go over very well. I don't know. Obviously Twilight Princess, or Breath of the Wild rather, struck gold with being the best most successful selling Zelda of all time, but I still think there's a lot of fans out there like me that will kind of crave the classic formula every now and then. Even just like earlier finding one of the heart pieces along the way, it made me realize I kind of missed, you know, having that in Breath of the Wild, where you go through the shrines, of course, to either level up your stamina or your health. But I really enjoy having those heart pieces, side quests, and different things you have to figure out, whether it be with NPCs or just different quests throughout the game that you have to do extra stuff on the side you wouldn't normally have to do in order to get those heart pieces. So that's something that's fun for me. They definitely did a lot right with Breath of the Wild. I think a mix of both the traditional Zelda formula and Breath of the Wild would be a perfect thing. Let's see if I can skip past this here, because I want to show you guys a little bit of the Wolf Link gameplay. We won't go too much further than this, just an entrance of time. I know there's a way to charge up like Midna's special attack. I don't know if I have that yet or not. Yeah, I definitely have this hand deal here, so I'm kind of figuring this out as I go again, because it has been so long since I've played it. But it just, Wolf Link is very responsive, very fun portion of the game in my opinion. And you know, to kind of expand upon the conversation of whether or not we can expect this to ever make it to the Switch, it's like my hope is yes, because it just makes too much sense for Nintendo not to. The question is when, because if we really are getting Breath of the Wild in 2022, there is of course the strong possibility that they don't want to flood the market with Zelda. And if I'm a betting man, if we get one, there's the sense button, so then you can see in the Twilight Realm here, you can actually see the souls and it gives them their NPC character shape once you actually go into the sense mode. But if I'm a betting man, I think that, you know, most likely if we get any HD port this year besides what we're already getting with or not besides what we're already getting in terms of ports rather, but besides of Zelda games, which we're already getting Breath of the Wild 2, providing that's not delayed, and I personally don't think it will be. I think the best case scenario is maybe we actually get Wind Waker HD and they release that first, because you know that is one of those things that I think Nintendo's going to do this separate, unless if we're just shocked and the February Nintendo Direct they're like, hey, the Zelda 35th anniversary continues even though you didn't think it was, and by the way, here's a combo pack of Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. Like I can only see them selling them as a combo pack if it's part of the Zelda's 35th anniversary. If they are just regular standalone ports, they're gonna do what they did with every other Wii U title, in my opinion, which is sell them at full price regardless of if, you know, you paid it the 50 on the Wii U or not, which, you know, sadly I might be part of the problem if you guys aren't a fan of that idea, but I will pay $60 for Twilight Princess HD. I'll pay $60 for Wind Waker HD, but that's just how important those games are to me personally. I know the more consumer friendly thing would be to, you know, make a combo pack, but it's just, again, all speculation. I would love to hear from you guys what you know, personally think Nintendo will do with these games. But as I mentioned, if I'm a betting man, if we get these at all, I think we see individual releases. We see them release Wind Waker first, maybe in the first half of 2022. And then later on down the line, I think we could then maybe see Twilight Princess like after Breath of the Wild 2 has come out. Like there's no way they're flooding the market with multiple Zelda IPs all at the same time. It's just not Nintendo style. They rarely release two Zelda games in the same year at all. And in fact, they haven't done it other than some handheld editions, like where, you know, Majora's Mask 3D came out in the same year as Triforce Heroes and stuff like that. Ocarina of Time 3D, similar scenario. But yeah, so that's kind of, I think that's where we'll probably wrap it here. I definitely want to hear from you guys on all your thoughts and opinions on what you think we can expect for, you know, Zelda games going forward, whether or not you think that we will see some of these, you know, Wii U classics come over. And then also, bonus question, share with me if we don't see these come over in any kind of like reasonable time frame, if you'll consider picking up a Wii U to go back and play some of these, because I know there's a lot of Zelda fans out there that are wanting to replay these games again. So I do look forward to hearing from you on all things Twilight Princess HD in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do at this point in the video want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.